I fully disagree with the notion that everyone faces a problem when they're trying to immigrate. That's definitely not the case. It highly depends on whether you're someone that is of suspicious nature or not. And that's not always like it depends. It's something that's objective. All that we ask is for the countries that deem themselves as civil and are proponents of human rights to treat the people that are coming into their country, regardless of their racial profile, with the respect that they are forced to treat their citizens with. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to everyone that is signing in to the... Anyway, assalamu alaikum to everyone that has just joined in and watched or starting to watch this first episode of hopefully a very ambitious and lengthy podcast series that's going to be hosted by Mr. Ibrahim Tahir and myself. A little bit about who we are. I can start. I'm a master's student at NYU. I'm from Egypt, Masr, Macedonia, and I have various interests from applied physics or physics in general, what I'm working with, to philosophy, psychology, maybe some ethics. I like to do boxing every now and then, maybe when I'm not injured, and table tennis, where Ibrahim is my very worthy opponent. Mr. Ibrahim, tell us a bit about yourself.
I don't think I'm a worthy opponent of table tennis.
Yeah,
Badminton, maybe.
That's true. Badminton. That aside, please.
My name is Ibrahim Tahir. I am originally from Pakistan. Pakistan, Zindabad. I am doing my PhD at NYU AD in material sciences. However, my background is in chemistry. I've moved into material sciences field because it has more practical application as opposed to fundamental science. And that is much more exciting for me because it connects me with what is going on in the world.
Some people say it has more material to it.
Haha.
I miss you too. Okay. So, Ibrahim, you're currently living in the UAE, where both of us have grown up, right? And you're from Pakistan, I'm from Egypt. That kind of puts us under this umbrella of a type of people called immigrants, right? People that have moved from one location to another. Some people do it because the movement makes better sense to them because of the environment. Other people do it because of economic factors, such as better living opportunities. Some people do it for better rights, and some people do it for all of the above at once. My parents, my family in particular, did it for a better opportunity, better financial opportunities for the family. This was the migration from Egypt to the United Arab Emirates. And now I've moved to the United States to pursue my education as well. And Ibrahim has also spent some time in the US pursuing his PhD. So what we aim to achieve through this episode today is to have a discussion that is, as much as we can, holistic and encompassing of a bunch of different things that people from the Middle East go through during the process of immigration, moving from one country to the other. And as people that have done so ourselves and lived in various locations, we want to start off by discussing, perhaps, since maybe we're both academics and scholars, one of the things that we'd like to start discussing is the migration of minds. The idea that you have educated individuals that have achieved a particular academic excellence, whether it's even if it's just a bachelor's, and people that want to do something with the academic excellence that they've achieved and end up not finding opportunities to pursue that back home. And so they end up traveling to other countries. Most of the time for us in the Middle East, it's either Europe or the US or Canada, North America. So let me start off by asking Ibrahim, Mr. Ibrahim, do you think that the people that have left our countries in the Middle East to pursue these opportunities, what do you think of these people? Are these people justified in what they do, or is it just people that, are being spoiled and just want to live in a different type of environment and don't care at all about back home?
This is a difficult question to answer. I think I have mixed feelings. From one perspective, I do understand why people would leave their countries to pursue better, economical opportunities and just a general better lifestyle. And we'll get back to what do we mean by a general better lifestyle. But unfortunately, we don't have many job opportunities in our countries. And majority of the people, they travel because they want to pursue a career pathway. However, the consequence of doing so is that when they do immigrate, they end up having their entire family move with them. And then we see the first or second generation of people who are living in those countries, they become completely detached and dissociated from their identity or the identity of their origin. And that's the part that I don't like, because with that immigration, what this creates is that all the people who are capable, all the people who are smart are filtered out of our country, and you see them ending up in the West. And the question then becomes, who is going to carry on the development and the advancement of our own country? And that's sort of like the basis of my mixed feelings. I understand the reasons that people have.
Yeah, it's. I think that's an apt analysis of what happens and the reasons behind it as well. And it's also important to note that these countries that are benefiting from this migration of remarkable minds from the Middle East, it would be of great utility to them to ensure that this cycle continues. Now, hear me out. I'm not claiming anything. I'm just saying that it would be of great utility for these countries in the West to ensure that you have an environment that does not foster opportunities, does not foster appreciation for these academic individuals that can end up lifting and uplifting this society from the ruins that it's in intellectually. It would be of great benefit to them to ensure that this cycle continues by participating in whatever they can in those countries to ensure that this state continues. I'm just saying. I'm not confirming anything. I'm just saying it's something to put out there. I don't know how you feel about this, Ibrahim.
I definitely think that there are certain countries in the West who have programs targeted towards this kind of incentive. I mean, it is within their interest to have people from other countries coming into their countries, and it is necessary for them to have sort of a filter so that they ensure that only the brilliance of the minds are brought into their country. Commonly, you would find such types of programs as scholarships, sponsorships, fellowships. These types of programs, they attract, the brightest of the people to apply. And there is a constant flow of, immigrants that these Western countries, they bump into their own country. And it makes sense because it's a cheap investment, I would say, as opposed to, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on, local people and not guaranteeing that you will get the best out of them. However, It's a relatively very cheap investment to get the best out of other countries. What do I mean by that? Let's say you take 100 people, okay, randomly from the United States, and you decide that you're going to sponsor all of them. What are the chances that all of them end up being, the next Elon Musk or Bill Gates, like brilliant people? Or not even that. If you don't want to go to that extreme, what guarantees that they're going to be the next doctors or scientists? Because statistically speaking, majority of the people in the United States are not interested in the science. I mean, look at the scientific field that we are surrounded by. Majority of them are not Americans. They are immigrants who got their nationality, either first generation immigrant or second generation immigrant who got their nationality at some point, right? From the perspective of the United States, instead of investing all that money into those 100 people, it is much, much, much easier to get 100 applicants through a scholarship. And you would guarantee that all of them are aspiring to be the best in whichever field they're applying.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, it would not be a stretch to say that some of the countries are standing at the shoulders of some large population of immigrants.
Some of them, yes. And just the point that you mentioned about the type of demographic that we find in the sciences. So I did my bachelor's degree in the UAE, right? And I saw a particular mixture of people. I saw Pakistanis, I saw Indians, I saw Arabs, and a couple of people from the West as well. Some Europeans, maybe. Not so much. And then I worked at New York University in Abu Dhabi. And then I also found a similar demographic as well. I was like, okay, this is probably because I'm in an Arab country, right? Like looking at the base statistics, you're more likely to find people from those ethnicities in the Middle East. It's like, okay. And then I come here to the US, right? To New York University, one of the most diverse universities across any country, like any university, any institution. NYU is very much up there when it comes to diversity. It's the same demographic. It is the same demographic with a couple more Americans, but I see people from Iran, I see people from Egypt, I see people from Pakistan and India. It's crazy the amount of scientists, right, that we have from our region that have made the move simply because of better either economic opportunities or opportunities at all to begin with. Because think of this, right? In our countries, unfortunately, science in specific is very much looked down upon as if it's a career that is not at all fruitful, right? And I must say, for good reason, because as of now, the opportunities that are available to people that pursue the sciences aren't that great. They're changing now with some of the countries in the Gulf, alhamdulillah. But the general consensus is that, you're pursuing the science, what are you going to end up doing? Being a teacher? As if that's something deplorable, like a second-class citizen, or example, like a teacher. as if teachers are not the people that build society from the ground up. But that's only for science. And then when it comes to stuff like engineering, right? And the medical science as well, stuff that is looked at as prestigious in our society. It is so freaking oversaturated with people that have chosen to go down that path because that's the epitome, that's the ultimate thing to do in society. But society cannot simply function in that way. You need people of various interests. And the reason that this, interest in engineering and medical sciences has remained and has been passed on from the previous generation is because that used to be indeed what provided the best quality of living. But in reality, what we have now is too many engineers and too few of a subset of problems relative to the amount of people that are willing to solve it. And so they don't find opportunities back home. And what they end up doing is going to a place with not so many engineers, like you said, a population that is not so interested in pursuing the sciences, and to find an opportunity there. That kind of poses the question of how does one solve this issue? Are the people in our region truly interested in pursuing engineering and the medical sciences, or is it just done because that's where the economic opportunity exists? Yeah, Ibrahim, I would love to get your opinion on this.
I mean, I definitely agree with everything that you said. From my perspective, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. Just the watch blinded me for a moment. It's a nice watch.
Thank you. I've been working in the recruitment of the students in NYU AD for some time, and at some point we are responsible for giving statistics back to the university as to how many students have applied and what is their background, etc., etc. Now, this is not a representation of the entire university. However, it is a representation of the entire science department. And I would say that in the science department, the recruitment rate of white people is very small. And majority of the people that are applying are from the Middle East, from Asia. We have a good number of people that are from Latino background that are applying. If I have to put a number based on my memory, I would say that 5% of the people who are white are applying, and majority of them are men, not females. Majority of the females who are white are applying to things like gender studies or social studies or social sciences.
Or on the humanities side of things.
Yeah, more of the humanity type of things. And when you think about in terms of financial well-being, in terms of how much the future career is going to pay off, majority of the money or much of the money is found in career pathways that are related to science and engineering, which is saturated by this type of demographic and your type of demographic, right? So it makes sense that when you go to New York University, NYU, which is supposedly the most diverse university, and you are going into the science department, you don't see many Americans. And that raises a question as to what exactly is happening. It's just a mere observation from our part. It's not, a great science. But the point that we're trying to make is that there is something to it. A country such as the United States, it definitely focuses on certain programs that would attract such types of immigrants. And with those immigrants, they give them really good offers that would ensure that they retain. I mean, the retention of students at NYU is like 90%.
Wow.
Which is amazing, considering that NYU is not that cheap to be in. It's a very expensive university. The tuitions cost a significant amount.
Shout out to the Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Scholars Program, for me at least.
Shout out to the fellowship, the Global PhD Fellowship Program for me.
We're not being funded by this, but if anyone wants to talk to us, in the description below, you can find that. Hello. Right. Let's maybe circle back a bit, because not everyone is interested in this discussion about the science and the migration of minds, although it is extremely important. And I think when people sit back and think on it a bit more, they realize a lot of the underlying forces that are happening to ensure that a particular nation remains in a certain state while leeching off of the best that society produces. That aside, let's talk about the immigration process itself. People moving from one country to another does not happen overnight. This process, Ibrahim, describe it a bit to us, Mr. Ibrahim. How, like from the very beginning, how does it start when you, as soon as you get the idea that, hey, I'm living in a country that's not appreciating my efforts, my competence, and is not providing me with opportunities and maybe no rights at all. There is no opportunity for economic development. What happens?
Anxiety. Stress and anxiety kicks in. That's the first step. because it's not easy. Like, just from the personal perspective, when a person is leaving their country, normally it is the last resort. I mean, think about it. If there is anything that we should learn from the biography of our Prophet, alayhi salatu wassalam, it's the fact that immigration or migrating from Mecca to Medina was the last resort. Like they only made that decision when life became
Yeah.
a matter of, like, like
Was this
their
close?
life was threatened.
He barely even survived that
Yeah,
migration process. Like
like
it was that
just
bad.
just when the life became unbearable and he understood that his life is threatened, that's the point where he decided to leave and immigrate to Medina, right? Because immigration is not easy, uprooting yourself from one place. These days, it's much easier comparatively, right? But despite all the ease, it is still very difficult for people to move from one place to another. I haven't spent much time in the United States, almost a year, but even for me, that year, during that year, I was coming back to UAE within 6 months to maintain my residential visa in UAE, right?
I thought you
But
were going to say to maintain your Middle Easternness, just to refresh and come back.
no, it's purely for immigration purposes. So, you grow homesick, and it becomes very difficult for you to adjust, even though because of social media and because of general media, Hollywood, USA is not a very alien place for us. It's very easy for us to adjust and acclimate into that type of environment. But it is still very difficult for people to get used to, a culture, and there is a slight culture shock. So when someone is making a decision,
you don't like oversized burgers and soft drinks?
it's not about the food. It's more about the spiritual well-being of a person. Because it's you're born and raised in a Muslim country, and now you're moving in a country that is not really oriented in that way, and then you're like, okay, it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in, right? It's a whole different subject, but the morality overall in that country is very different than what I'm used to. Anyways, the anxiety kicks in when someone is making decision that they are going to immigrate from one place to another. There is a lot of economical stress as well. A lot of money are involved. But despite all of the things, the worst of all is the fact that you are going to deal with the process of immigration. The logistics are a separate case, but it's just the legal process of going through the immigration is horrendous. Documentation that is required, the type of question that is required, the way people treat you when you are applying for the visa, the way people treat you at the airport, the faces and expressions that you have to deal with for the immigration officers who are clearly, I don't know, racist. I don't want to say racist, discriminatory, right? Because it might not just be the race. It just might be that these people are poor or something. But they have an attitude, right? You have to deal with that type of attitude. And, for someone who is going through the process of immigration, he clearly is struggling to be in that place. So it is difficult. Life is difficult enough for them. For them to go through this process of humiliation, even though they're not doing anything illegal, is just hideous, to be honest. I hate it. Let's start with this.
Yeah. First of all, I fully disagree with the notion that everyone faces a problem when they're trying to immigrate. That's definitely not the case. It highly depends on whether you're someone that is of suspicious nature or not, and that's not always like, it depends. It's something that's objective, truly, and there's no any form of bias or discrimination that's involved. It definitely has nothing to do with race. But yeah, that aside,
I would, if you pop up that picture again, you know where you are? You are the red line. You are the red line. You are the red line. It's like, hello, hi. That's how they treat you.
It's like it's very ambiguous. I'm in that era. It's like, you're Middle Eastern, but you're Egyptian. We don't have too many problems with you. You're white, but your name has Ahmed. Yeah, it's a fun time. It's a fun time. I've definitely I think I've made use of being white passing. People sometimes think that I'm white, although I've been told that with the beard, now it's less often that happens, which is great. Not because I don't want to be white, just I don't want people to mistake me for something that I'm not am that I am not am, which I'm very proud of being Egyptian and whatnot. But yeah, that aside, the immigration process, Mr. Ibrahim. From the millions of papers that you need to submit, all the documents, from the long waiting time, not for the processing, just to get an opportunity to speak to a consulate officer that will converse with you for 30 seconds and sometimes makes a decision on the spot. You've waited for months, right? You waited for months to submit your documents, to tell that person why I need to go to that place, and here's the proof, here's the paperwork. They speak to you in a particular demeanor. Very congruent with the civility that these states promulgate and pretend to be supporters of. That's full sarcasm, just for the record. And they, sometimes the reason is like, I think you're lying. I think you're lying. This was an instance that I went through after graduating from high school. I applied to 3 of the best universities in Australia. And there's already enough stress for you to worry about whether you're going to get accepted into these universities or not, because you've worked so hard in high school, and now is the time for you to pursue a career, right? And so I applied to these 3 universities, and then I get accepted. I was like, wow, alhamdulillah, this is amazing. This is remarkable. What could stop me now? And then I apply for the visa in parallel. And then at some point, and not just any point, by the way, not like 2 months before I'm supposed to start. No, like a week right before I'm supposed to leave the UAE where I was living to Australia. This is the country I'm applying to Australia. 1 week right before, I was like, I know you got accepted and all, which is great. Mabruk, congratulations. Habibi, this is great for you. But I have a hunch that you want to come here and not just study, but you want to come here and fully immigrate to Australia and stay after you're done with your studies. Because your brother, and we know your brother, he lives in Australia and he studied here as well. And he has legally been granted citizenship in Australia. And so we don't want the same to happen with you. We don't want you to come here, raising the standard of our academic institutions by your hard work because you're a migrant, and then thinking that you're suddenly able to become part of this society and leave the society that you are in, this Arab society that you're coming from. You want to come and pay in our institution? No, I'm sorry. We think that you don't want to just come to study. We think you want to come and stay. So, visa, mafi habibi, ma salam. That's my first experience with migration. That's me.
What could stop you? You got accepted to the university. What could stop you now? Immigration.
That question did not age well at all. Every day since, I've been thanking Allah, alhamdulillah, thank you God, for steering my life in that direction. I would have been miserable if I've migrated there. I'll just leave it at that. But alhamdulillah that my visa was not accepted. alhamdulillah, I'm glad that there were people that used like with full heart this metric that we just spoke of to decide whether I was worthy to come to the country or not. You know, I don't think I've done so bad. I mean, I think New York is a much more interesting place. Just to say. Yeah.
Subhanallah, how when you look back, you're like, it happened for the best. Imagine not being in UAE.
Oh my God, this would not have happened. I would not have met you.
Yeah,
I would not have met Said.
This is part of the consequences, the beautiful brotherhood that we have built over the years is purely from the university. I'm not in contact with the people I studied with in high school, minus one person. But he's in Canada. We rarely speak. We just speak to check up on each other. But the journey that we have embarked on together as brothers from UAU is just different. It's remarkable. All of the people I came across after graduating, like through my PhD, it's just not the same.
Spot on. That's so spot on. I was thinking of this the other day, just in case anyone's watching this from NYU. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna lie, but my friends from the UAE, that's a whole different level. And for anyone that watches this in the future, if you're my friend, I love you. But the UAE guys, that's a different thing. You wouldn't know because you haven't shared a cup of karak at T-Brick in Abu Dhabi or Ping in Al Ain. You don't know. Alhamdulillah.
You know the Japanese when they have this ritual of becoming brothers where they drink in small cups, sake, and they toast and they're like, that's karak, that's for us. That's literally. The moment you drink karak with each other more than once, halas, it's done. It's in the blood.
Oh, man.
You know how they say we're blood related, we're karak related.
That's no comparison. Because if you think of it, like, what does the blood contain? Some water, platelets, red blood cells, white blood cells. Karak has za'faran, it has sugar, it has
cardamom.
Milk, condensed milk, cardamom.
It doesn't have sugar. It has caramelized sugar. There is a difference.
Ya salam, Ibrahim.
Anyways, going back to the topic.
Yes. Let's not. We'll have a different episode about karak, I think. Yeah.
Look, I unfortunately, alhamdulillah, I am 27 years old now. I can't even believe that I'm 27 years old. But yeah, I'm 27 years old now, and in my 27 years, I had the privilege of traveling quite frequently. We travel at least twice every year. Been doing that since I was a fetus. Literally. I was making up for the years where the COVID was going to hit. During the COVID years, 2020 and 2021 was the only year where we did not get to travel. But apart from that, we travel once or twice every year. And oftentimes, we don't go in different places. We're traveling to the same place. But regardless of whether you're going to the same place or different places, you're going through immigration and the process is not that different.
Yeah.
I've had the privilege of going to the United States in my life. I had the privilege of going to Europe and back to my home country, Pakistan, and a lot of countries in the Middle East. Gulf. Alhamdulillah, overall, I don't have remarkably bad experiences with immigration throughout my life. Yet, I mean, compared to you, because I know that you have many stories to share, right? I never had such bad experiences. And alhamdulillah, I've never been rejected a visa. Yet, every time I travel, even when I travel back to my own home country, the fact that I have to go through immigration just gives me anxiety.
Oh,
I mean, if you're getting anxiety due to some bad past experiences or bad history, it would make sense. I don't even have that history, and I still have so much anxiety when I'm going through immigration, just because of the narrative of how they treat you when you are going through immigration, right? The way they speak to you is just has a certain demeanor, and you know, this
The
is
Middle
pure.
Eastern kryptonite.
It's pure racism, because if I'm traveling, for example, to a country in the Gulf, just like this, okay, I will be treated with a very bad demeanor, okay. But if I change the way I'm dressed, so for example, let's say I'm wearing a kandora and I'm speaking Arabic instead of talking English, like instead of saying hello, how are you, sir, instead of saying this, like salam alaikum, kayf al-hal akhoy, the attitude completely changes. Until they open my passport, that is.
حياك هلا والله هلا
هلا ورحمة الله أخي، كيف الحال؟ من وين جاي أخوي؟
yeah, there are a couple of bad apples. But yeah, the like it's really a lot to go through. Like it's especially for people that have pride and dignity. People in the Middle East, and that's like a big emphasis on part of our identity. It's one of the most difficult things to go through. Someone that has so much power over you, and it's something that has become normalized. Every time you have to go through that, it's not an easy experience. Some people get accustomed to it, but from my experience, the majority of them don't. And
you can't really get accustomed to the humiliation. You just learn to. It's literally humiliation. To be honest, there's no other way to put it.
Like I'll tell you another story. And this is not immigration, but like you said, it's like the idea of going through immigration, passport control. It's very much similar to that. I went to South Korea at some point during my undergrad, just for tourism, and it was on my own. I was just exploring there for maybe 10 to 14 days. And for Egyptians, at the time at least, they were provided with a visa on arrival. Okay.
Nice.
Great, right? And so I'm standing in line, and I see people from different countries all across the world, people from Italy, Spain, America, Germany. I heard some German there, some people from Asia. No Arab people. I didn't see any Arab people. I was like, okay, that's fine. I understand. It's a far place. At the time, it was still not so much on the map as it is today. And so there weren't a lot of Arab people interested in going to South Korea. And I was like, doesn't matter. Even if there are no Arabs here, I have visa on arrival. This is about to be one of the best experiences of my life. Okay. And the line was so long for immigration. I don't know what type of efficiency they had there in the line. It took me, I think, 2 hours to get to the front of the line to go through a passport control. 2 hours, I kid you not. It was horrible.
Crowded?
No, they were just that slow. They were very slow. I mean, there were a lot of people, but it doesn't justify 2 hours. Okay. I was like, it's fine. It's fine. 2 hours passed by. I'm like, I'm at the front of the line. Finally, I'm gonna get out of here, go to my hotel, have some bulgogi on the way or something. And I arrive at the passport control officer. He looks at my passport. Why are you coming here to South Korea? It's like, for tourism. It's like, can I see your hotel reservation and flight ticket? The return flight ticket. It's like, okay. We haven't asked this to anyone else because I've been watching to see what has been slowing down the line. Very well. I take out my bag of certificates that every Middle Eastern knows of, where you have to carry your entire history on your shoulder just in case someone wants to ask for your birth certificate. You never know. You never know. The Egyptians particularly know this. You're going to Mugamma Tahrir, and you need to finish some papers. Go to the 10th floor on the Madame Abir, and then down to the third floor. Give me the paper. Where is the paper? You don't have the paper? I'm sorry. Come after tomorrow, and then maybe we will have something in the system is down, unfortunately. So back to the topic. I had all of the papers that might be necessary on me, including my transcript. I don't know why I had my transcript. I kid you not. At the time, I was like, maybe if they see my grades, they will let me in. Okay. Maybe in hindsight, maybe I was doing too much. But nonetheless, I showed him the stuff. And then he was like, okay, you go here. It's like, what? The exit is there. You go here. I was like, where are you going? And I was like, and then
he literally said it like that. He said, you go here?
You go here. You go here. And then I exited and I went to the left and I was like, what is this office? And then I saw an office where I was the only one in the office, by the way. And then 4 officers, each with a desk in front of them. Sit down. And then give me your passport. See, like, it's not someone that's inquiring about something. No. They want to put you through the experience of being someone that did something wrong without any proof of anything. You know? Give me your passport. Sit down.
Interrogation.
Give me your passport. They take my passport. 10 minutes. Why are you here why are you here in South Korea? I've just answered this question 10 minutes ago with your friend, and I've showed him my hotel reservations and my flight. Why are you asking the same question again? Okay, I'm here for tourism. On your own? Yeah, I'm on my own. Yes. It's like, what do you do back in the UAE? It's like, I'm a student. What do you study? Physics. And then he takes my student ID card, by the way. I was hoping that because of the discounts I'll get in South Korea, but just to identify myself. He looks at the ID card. How many days are you going to stay in Korea? It's like 12 days, as you can see in the flight reservation and the hotel reservation.
So stupid.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Have you been to South Korea before? No, I'm not. This is my first time. Why are you coming for tourism?
God. Wow.
Allahu A'lam. Allah, subhanallah. And then a bunch of questions that were similar to that. Like, if you're someone that's actually inquiring about something, if my name shows up on something sketchy, something suspicious, I will respect you to the fullest in doing your job, in protecting your country. It's your job. But don't take me knowing that there is nothing in my name, because that's never happened to me before, right? And start speculating and asking me questions as if I'm something that did something wrong. If you want to ask questions, first of all, ask them nicely, ask them with demeanor, because you're supposed to be a civilized country. And when you're a civilized country, that's not something that's restricted and exclusive to your citizens only. You don't bully people from different countries as well, unless in reality you're only projecting this idea of civility when you're truly not. So this was one of the outcomes that I had when this is the beginning of my trip, going to a country where I'm happy to explore. The culture is very intriguing. I want to see this and that. And this is the first experience that I get at the airport. What type of perspective do you want me to hold after this? Honestly, it's just, I'm, alhamdulillah, wise enough to realize not to generalize a particular experience to an entire culture and entire people. South Korean people were very nice. They were a bit reserved when it comes to me. I think that's just the culture with strangers, but no one was rude. No one was rude. So, but like as a country, if you're a civil country, you're supposed to exhibit that in all avenues of life, including how you accept guests. In the Arab world, oh my God, I'm not talking about immigration yet. In the Arab world, but actually, let me talk about immigration. In the Arab world, if you're someone that's coming from any country that's not Arab, any country that's in the West.
I was waiting to say, Amr,
The
you have
West,
to
the
say
West,
that
the
you are
West.
not Arab.
If you're coming from Europe, if you're coming from the US, North America, and all of that.
حتى Pakistan, even Pakistan.
Yeah, that's their.
Yeah,
I
even
don't
Pakistan.
know.
Yeah,
Okay.
even Pakistan.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm so.
أهلا وسهلا. اتفضل. Come here. I love you. Welcome. And that's just the immigration. And then you get to see the Arab culture and how people will literally force feed you out of generosity.
That is true.
And it's all because you were born in a particular place. And then when receiving your own people, you're like, you're coming back. You were away, and now you're coming back. Why did you leave? Tell me now, why did you leave? Why did you leave? Everything you went outside, you want to see the Eiffel Tower? We have something similar in Egypt. Why did you go? So
we have the minaras of the masjid.
والله العظيم. Alhamdulillah. Barakallah.
By the way, the mosques in Egypt have beautiful architecture, to be honest.
Oh my God, man. Wallah, I've actually made it a task or a goal of mine to explore all of the mosques in Cairo to begin with. There are very beautiful mosques outside as well. I've seen like a good 6. My favorites still until now being the one on top of the Citadel, Al Qal'a, Masjid Muhammad Ali. Oh my God. Oh my God. On top of Qalat Salah ad-Din. Oh my God.
Why don't you Google it and show it to others?
Yeah.
Be encouraging for them to visit Cairo.
Yeah.
Okay. While you search for that image, let me address one of the points that you mentioned that caught my attention. When you said that if your name showed up something that required investigation, you would respect that, and that is actually very true. When I was coming back from New York for the first time, I wasn't like this. My facial features was not like this. I did not had this beard. Oh my God! Wow. Oh, wait, I'll talk later. Let me just take this in. Wow. This is on top of castle, right?
Top of castle, on top of the Qala, yes. When they used to protect themselves. Look at how elevated it is. This is the citadel. This is the mosque right on top.
Yeah, this is a mosque with a personality.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, continue. You were talking about New York. Yeah.
Right. So when I went to New York, I had a thick shave. I don't know what you call it, but my beard wasn't as long as it is now. When I was in New York, conveniently because of the barbers being very expensive and me generally being very busy and lazy at the same time to take care of my grooming, I decided I'm just gonna grow my beard. And after maybe almost 5 months, I decided I'm gonna go back to my parents to UAE. When I went to the immigration, not even the immigration. When I went for what do you call it when the place where you give your luggage for check-in?
Check-in counter.
Okay. I was the check-in counter, right? All I had to do was just give my bag so that they check it in and they book a seat for me, and that's it. Halas. It's very simple. This is not the first time traveling. It's a very seamless process. I put my bags, he weighed them, and he looked at my passport and he said, please hold on. And then he went. And that, please hold on. He said, please hold on for a moment. I should mention. Okay. That moment was 1.5 hours long.
Oh my God.
And during that time, 6 police officers came and they looked at my passport and they would look at me, and then they would talk to each other, and then they would look at me, and they would not look at me like this. They would look at me like with an angry stare. And I would be on my phone and I would look around like, where did that guy go? And then I would look and there's a different police officer and he's staring at me like this. And I'm like, okay, why is he looking at me like that? Like I did not do anything wrong. I swear, I did
Yeah.
not do anything wrong during my stay in New York. But the way he was looking at me, I just had that suspicious look. Like, okay, I hope I didn't get caught.
You
One and a
start
half
behaving
hours.
suspicious. You start behaving suspicious.
I don't know. But
What I don't know what type of time dilation that guy was on.
yeah, later on, after 1.5 hours, the guy came and he's like, "Thank you for the wait," and he handed me my passport, and he's like, "You can go, sir." And I was like, "I waited here for 1.5 hours. An explanation, please." He's
Yeah.
like, "No, we were just making sure that everything on this everything matched the documentation that you've provided." And I said, "What documentation? It is only passport." It's not like, this is not immigration. This is not
Yeah.
immigration. There's just ticket and my passport, and that's just like, we were just making sure that everything on documentation matches. And later on, I found out that, well, first of all, the way I looked changed completely, so that caught them off guard. And secondly, it turned out that my my name,
Yeah.
my father's name, and my father has a double name, right? So my father's name is Hamad Tahir, right? My name is Ibrahim. So from their perspective, this is three names, right? The first name, second name, and the family name. Someone that was wanted by them, like a person who was wanted, had a similar name, Ibrahim Muhammad Tahir. He just had a different face, but he had the same name. And they were like, he is not the same,
Yeah.
Sus that came to New York. He's a grown man with a beard. He looks dangerous. And his name matches this wanted man. Maybe it is him. Because of this incident, now I am unable to use, the fast track that we have in Abu Dhabi. Yeah, I cannot use that ever. I have to go through the manual immigration. The blessings on me, blessings.
You take you take your passport back يا حبيبي. شكرا كلك ذوق حبيبي. مع السلامة. Thank you very much. It's beautiful passport. It's amazing.
But for me, like, this was an irritating experience. Now you're thinking, why did I throw it back? Shatter.
Yeah.
Look, I agree with you, because when I said that none of the experiences were horrible, this did not even register in my mind as a bad experience, because this was like, he was just doing his job. My name popped up and something showed, and they were just making sure that, this is the right person and they're not mixing it up. And that's a legitimate case. And he was not rude to me. He was not rude to me. And maybe he just, his attitude, you know how people are in check-in counters, right? They're very nice and they're very friendly, unlike the people in immigration, right? So he was very, like, normal with me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was fine. Yeah, he was doing his job. I had to wait for an hour and a half. It's not the worst thing. So yes, that is different than what you have experienced.
Yeah, it's not too much, and it doesn't interfere with your job to treat someone with the respect that they deserve until you have some proof that they're a bad person. I don't think that's that, like, you don't need to be a jerk to someone to do your job better at finding out whether they're an asshole or not, or a fugitive or someone that you need. You really don't need to be a jerk to them. You can do your job professionally in a civil manner and ask your questions, and then whatever wait time is needed, as long as it's not being racially motivated. If you need the time to confirm something, like the situation you mentioned, halas, be it. All that, like, hats off. Thank you for doing your job. Thank you for protecting your country. It's your absolute right. This is great. It's not like all that we ask is for the countries that deem themselves as civil and are proponents of human rights to treat the people that are coming into their country, regardless of their racial profile, with the respect that they are forced to treat their citizens with. Right? So you have laws in your country, right? and you are forced to respect them because you have democracy, because you have repercussions if you don't follow those laws. You don't receive someone from a country that doesn't have those similar laws and be like, this guy I can mess with. I've been respectful for far too long. Come here. What are you doing here? Come here. And it's unnecessary. So all we're asking is be a bit more civil. That's all. But this idea of, holding the passport and always fearing that something might happen, regardless of whether it would or not, this irrational, sometimes perhaps, feeling that comes from the burden of the Middle Eastern passport, unless you're from the Gulf, that's different. I think the UAE has, at some point, it was the strongest passport. Maybe it still is, actually. It gives you access to so many.
I think it still is.
Yeah, I think it and Singapore keep going back and forth. This burden of the passports is one of the biggest motivations for the youth of our region to leave the region, and instead of contributing the amazing things that they have, whether it's ideas, whether it's their impetus and motivation to do stuff, people don't understand how blessed we are in having a demographic distribution where the majority of our population, or a big portion of it, is young people. These are the people that do stuff. They're the people that push society forward. And instead of retaining them, the policies that we have impacted in the Arab world and in the Middle East, they're doing everything possible to motivate and influence them to get the hell out of there, to the point where you leave the place where they grew up to nothing, to absolutely nothing. So, Mr. Ibrahim, the question is, how do we retain those individuals? What type of changes back home need to occur so that we can retain our youth?
This is a difficult question, but I think it is a necessary question to ask. And I think it is a necessary transition that we should make at this point in this conversation, because we've clearly outlined the problem. So there is no point of just speaking about the problem without the solutions. I think the most basic and fundamental thing that is necessary for people in our country is to have justice. Okay, opportunities are there. I mean, that's a clear reason why people are leaving, that there are no opportunities. So obviously we need job opportunities, and we need to expand on what people who are graduating can do within our country. But apart from that, all of that, there's something that is much more fundamental than even that, and that is just to have a good justice system where people know that their dignity will be preserved and they will not be wronged. Because that is when you see people like that, this is the most fundamental thing that you see people are complaining. Like even with you, the example that you have shown with what happened to you in South Korea, all I hear is that it's injustice. It's unjust that all of those people who were standing in the line, they were treated in a particular way, and you were singled out and you were treated in a different way, and based on no grounds. Like there was no reason for them to treat you in that way, right? So there needs to be a good sense of justice. In our countries, unfortunately, that is one of the biggest reasons why people don't stay in line and act the way that they should act, is because they know there is no repercussions. Just like, for example, big companies, they try to get out of their line, but they don't, because they know that they will be dragged into the court by even a single individual in the United States, because everyone is trying to sue someone for something that they have done or something that they might do, right? But the point is that, okay, when the justice system is so strong where people are worried that the law is going to be enforced, that's when you see that majority of the problems get resolved.
Strong justice system, and yeah. This I think also, like, I'm sure you're speaking about just the institutions of justice in that society, but can you also extend justice in the hiring process? Because there's a lot of corruption.
Yeah, 100%. This is what I mean. Like, there is what do you call wasta in English? Wasta.
Intermediary, where basically someone, or that the concept is called nepotism. The person that happens to be the wasta is called an intermediary. So the idea that you give a particular job to someone that you know, even though they're not competent and they're not the best candidate, and it's only because that's someone that you know.
Yeah, wasta is one problem. There is another problem of general racism, right? They don't want to hire people from certain ethnicities just because it is not in their preference. That happens a lot. Not necessarily in my country, because we don't have a lot of people in my country that are from different race, so we don't have a big issue with racism. But in other countries, this is a big issue, right? Majority of the people who are in countries that have a lot of immigrants, they complain about these types of things, especially in the Gulf, right? One of the basic complaint that you see people making here is that if you hire 2 engineers, there is going to be a significant difference in the amount of pay that an engineer who is local is going to get over the one who is immigrant. Based on what? It's not pure competence, even though logic dictates that you should compensate people based on their competence, right? But that is not the case. What is?
And like even for like another example of that form of discrimination that makes no sense to me. Like if we're comparing, like the case for you to give people from your country more money because you want to support them and uplift them. Okay, I don't agree with it, because I think it should be based off of competence, because in the long run, this is what will truly uplift your people. But I can understand it a bit more than having 2 immigrants, one coming from the Middle East and one coming from the West, with the same exact competence, if not more, from one of the other side.
It's generally more.
And
it's
then
generally more.
And then you pay the person coming from the West more simply because they have a passport. I know people that have lived in the Gulf and have left to other countries to get the passport only so that they can return back to these Gulf countries to get a better paying job. Come on. What is more inefficient than this? The fact that you have to waste 5-6 years of your life living somewhere you don't necessarily want to live, just so that you can come back and people treat you differently, even though you're the same exact person, just because you have a different citizenship. What are you doing to yourself? And you're wasting the competence that can stay and invest in your country. Because these people that go, by the way, when they leave and they realize there are other things that are beneficial over there, such as a justice system and maybe better rights, better opportunity. They're going to want citizenship. They're going to want to stay for all of these things. So you're wasting an opportunity to retain that competence.
There's another thing that is worth mentioning at this point. It's just how differently you are treated because you have a visa of a particular country. Like the way people treat me and many other people that I know, just because we have a valid United States visa, is insane. It's insane because there are a lot of people. I know a particular example I'll give you of my family member. He always wanted to go and visit Europe because he loves tourism and he loves exploring places, and he's particularly passionate about exploring Switzerland and other countries similar to Switzerland that have a lot of nature and greenery. He applied maybe 5 or 6 times on different occasions, and he always gets rejected. And then at some point, because of education, he ended up traveling to the US for 2 years, did his master's, and came back. And after he had his visa, US visa, when he applied to Switzerland, he got accepted, and he's like, that says something. So, where did you go?
We now deem you worthy. Welcome to Switzerland.
So, this is the point of mentioning this story is to clearly illustrate that there is some significance. Just if a simple visa can give you such type of privilege, it makes complete sense for people to leave their country just for that citizenship and come back. I, for example, for once, really, I've been to the United States. I don't want to be in the United States. I really want to be in the Gulf. I love the Gulf. I love the weather here. I love everything about the Gulf. This is where I was born and raised. And I also want to be in a place where it's close to my home country, so I can frequent back to my home. But I also know there is the conundrum that the job opportunities that I'm going to get because I'm a Pakistani is not going to be the same if I was an American. And there is another example to illustrate this. I know of a professor. He is a very competent professor. When he was applying for his position in the university, I'm not going to mention the name nor the university, but when he was applying to the university, when he applied for the first time, he got shortlisted and then he did not get the position. They declined him. He's a Pakistani. He has a Pakistani passport, he has an American passport, and he has a Canadian passport. How does he have these three? He's Pakistani and he went to the United States and he studied there for his PhD and then worked there as a postdoc for a few years. And then he applied for the citizenship and he got his citizenship. Then he married a woman who's Pakistani, but she's Canadian. And because she's Canadian, he also has a Canadian passport. When he applied on his Pakistani passport because as a patriot of Pakistan, he was proud to be a Pakistani. So he wanted to be labeled as a Pakistani professor.
Yeah.
So they rejected him. One of the reasons why he applied to that particular university is because that university happened to be in a place where his parents were, and he wanted to be close to his parents. So he was adamant that he wants to get that position. When they rejected him, he said, all right, you know what, I'm going to apply again, this time with my American passport. And he got accepted with a better salary offer. And he said, yeah, I wanted the job and I got the job. But that example, when he gave me that example, that was clearly to illustrate the benefit that people from a certain nationality has over another. It's the same person. It's not, like, when you said that, two people with the same level of competence, what could say, well, how can you objectively measure competence? You can, but even if that is not the case, this is the same person. He's going to do the same job. It's just that he applied with two different nationalities. When he applied as a first nationality as a Pakistani, they perceived him in a certain way, and they said, yeah, we don't really want this person, right? Because a Pakistani professor, why would you want that? An American professor, now that is attractive.
Because there is a difference. One of them is Muhammad Nizam, and the other is Muhammad Nizam. And Muhammad Nizam is much better, I'm sure, at his job because, we've been mentally colonized for so long that we believe that everything that comes from the West is much better than anything that could possibly come out of this region.
Which is not true. We have enough competence and talent and eagerness and willingness and energy.
With the conditions that we have now, which aren't the best. Imagine what happens if we invest into the people. Imagine. I mean, we could look back at the golden age of Islam, because that's pretty much something that covered the region, and speak about the developments in mathematics, from Al-Khwarizmi to furthering algebra, to creating algorithms, to Ibn Sina in the medical sciences, a book that is still used up until today, to Al-Bayruni, to our, all the advancements in trigonometry, astronomy, things that GPS is based off of today. There is so much that this region could contribute to if the right investment is directed to its people. And I think that's going to be my second solution to the problem. Investing into the people. Realizing that in the long term, for this region to thrive, you need to direct whatever resources and funds you have, or a big portion of it at least, to making sure that the people are uplifted, rather than constantly depending on people from the outside and thinking that that's a sustainable model somehow. The people that are coming here are not, the majority of them are not coming because they love your country and it's an amazing place to stay. No, they're coming for the money. You're giving them a lot of money, and then they want to go back to their country. It's not sustainable. And so you're left with nothing to spare, and you have to continue this perpetual cycle of depending on competence from the outside rather than having the people that are in your country, in your nation, which is much easier to do, by the way, develop that country and push it forth to this beacon of competence and the ability to do things in society rather than constantly taking things from the outside. It's not a difficult problem. It really isn't a difficult problem. ولا ايه؟ شكلها difficult يا ابراهيم. Is there, do you think there's another, so far we spoke about justice, we spoke about the investing into the people. I think a third one as well, to summarize from what you said, is to remove the discrimination when it comes to job opportunities and hiring, and to kind of rid ourselves of this colonial idea that people in this region are not competent compared to
I would not say the discriminatory, because that falls under the justice umbrella, but I do definitely think that we need to educate the people within our countries and make them realize our identity, like, my self-identity as a Pakistani. What does it mean? Tell us about our history in a way which would make me proud of being a Pakistani. Remove that type, like that the what's the word? Let me remember the word. The trauma of colonization that everyone has in our country, that makes us so insecure about being a Pakistani. That needs to be cleansed in a way. I don't know what that way is, but if I was thinking as a father or as an older brother, I would say that tell us about the history so that we can establish our self-identity. Once we have our self-identity, we can become a nation that is proud of ourselves. I know of some nations who were colonized at some point, but they worked on developing their self-identity, and now they are very proud of who they are. They don't identify themselves, they don't have any insecurities, and they have a lot of insane amount of passion to become just, brilliant in everything. And I don't think that is impossible to do. This is how nations change. And I think that at the third level is that, like, at the national level, we need to work towards that. We've been through that transition. As someone who was born and raised in UAE, I did not have the exposure to my culture, but I had the privilege of observing my culture as an outsider and then embracing it as my own. And the more I did it, the more I grew to love it. Now I have no issue saying I'm a proud Pakistani, unlike many other Pakistanis who have immigrated in their first generation, second generation. I should mention I'm a second generation immigrant in this country because my grandfather moved into UAE, and then my father was born and raised here, and then I'm born and raised here. So I'm a second generation. And yet, unlike many other Pakistanis that I know who are British Pakistani, American Pakistani, they are very insecure of saying that they are Pakistani. They don't even admit that they're Pakistani, which to me is simply disgusting.
Yeah, it's difficult to detach and decouple the effects of that colonial rape, excuse my language, that has occurred. Because I mean, I'm going to be honest. I fell into this trap at some point when I was growing up, the first years of my undergrad, because everything I'm seeing around me, I'm particularly interested in ethics and theology and all of that. So all of the stuff that I was exposed to at the time, the people that were creating content, or at least what I was receiving or what was reaching me, was all people from the West. It wasn't people that were called Hussein, not Abdul Rahman. It wasn't Ibrahim. It wasn't Shayma. It wasn't Hasna. No. It was all Johnny. It was all Mark, whatever the names are. And I saw no representation of competence from my culture. So I naturally started thinking, man, we're so freaking stupid. We suck. I started despising, where I'm coming from because of the immense lack of competence. There were two problems with that. One, because I was not looking hard enough and I was consuming, Western social media apps like through YouTube more often than not. I think it's changed now, but more often than not, I was being recommended stuff that's coming from the West because these are the people that are creating a lot of content. Like, if we're going to be honest, it's not the same as now. And I wasn't told well enough of, like you said, the history, the amazing, rich history of achievements that have happened in this region by the remarkable people in this region. I wasn't told of that. And that's extremely important for us to begin with this idea of transition into a place where we can say proudly that, yes, I'm from there. So that was the first issue. And the second issue is, instead of thinking, okay, this is the state of my society, it's bad, even if it's bad, I should work on fixing it. Not just think of leaving for good and have nothing to do with it. And this is not to say that people who migrate, I mean, I'm an immigrant as of now. I want to come back to my country at some point. But the people that choose to leave and never come back and have no association with their culture, even when they're out there, they're like, nah, man, I hate that culture. It's horrible. Everything was bad back home. And they don't want to invest back into it at some point in any particular way. That needs to shift. That needs to shift. Even if it's bad, even if the status quo is bad, it needs to become better. So people like you, when they're growing up, they don't have to go through the same bullshit, whether it's through the airport, through the immigration control, going through the entire process of leaving your home country to live somewhere else for better opportunities. You need to start the change so people that were in your place and will be in your place don't have to suffer through all of that crap. Someone needs to start. If everybody leaves, then there will never be any form of development. People need to stay back or come back and invest into their own countries. Don't forget, so that your kids, inshallah, one day don't have to go through that. And then other people as well that don't necessarily need to be related to you.
It needs to start at some point, and better to start with us than to never start.
Allah. Inshallah, you will be the start. Isnillah.
Inshallah.
This has been a beautiful, lengthy, but beautiful nonetheless discussion, Mr. Ibrahim Tahir. I look forward to 1,000 more, 1,500 at least, more of this until we're 60 years old, Bismillah. And I hope that whoever was watching this, if one person gets value out of this, I will be extremely happy, because individuals can change the world. Don't listen to what people say. Individuals do have the ability to change the world.
There was I'm gonna end it with this quote that my mother said. I was at some point very hopeless of if I can ever make any meaningful contribution in my life to this world. And I was sitting with her and I said that I'm just a single individual. I'm insignificant. What can I do in this entire world? And my mother, she said, if you think you're insignificant, try spending a night with a mosquito and see how insignificant that little bug is.